Welcome to this video for Chapter 1 of the Android textbook. With the changes in technology sweeping so rapidly after a book is published, there may be some discrepancies, especially for the student who may be a little more nervous or more literal with the direction from the textbook. So I thought it might be easier for you, or at least give students an alternative for an online class, to have a guide on how to do the Chapter 1 project. I will preface this by letting you know that perceptually there will be a lot more busy work, housekeeping, processing going on for what will be a very simple project. Some of you may end up saying, I did all this for a simple sentence or phrase, but we have to start somewhere. Having said that, I'll remind you that the steps for this project, if you need a visual differently from the video, you can look at my PowerPoint presentation which I will put online. There's a lot of reading here, and many students will go straight to the chase and just go for the directions on getting the project done. But just remember that the information from Chapter 1 could appear on the test, and it's valuable in today's technology because it addresses a lot of modern things about cell phones, and particularly the Android cell phones. I wanted to make sure you understood that up front. Excuse me, I apologize for my throat tonight at this recording. To start the Chapter 1 project, you would actually go into page 10 if you just want to get to the meat of the project. We're going to create an Android application that simply does the traditional Java text display called Hello World. So I'll go ahead. You see these directions here, and I'll refer to these constantly during the video so that you can understand the process. I'm going in, and I want to find the location of my Java Eclipse software, and that's done, if you remember from the last video where we did the installing of the software, you go to your computer, to your C drive, and into the Android folder, and then into the Eclipse folder, and find the purple icon that has Eclipse. So you can make a shortcut on your desktop if you wanted to do this a little bit faster, but again, being online students, I don't necessarily know your computer background and your comfort level. In any event, look for the Eclipse purple icon, double click that. Be aware of the workspace that will come up so you'll know exactly where your programs are stored. I suggested, unless you are very comfortable with computers personally, that you use the workspace called C:\android\eclipse\workspace to store your files. Click OK, and I could do this little check mark that says use this as the default and do not ask again, and it will bypass this. That's a personal choice you can do individually. And it will load up for us. It may take 30 seconds to a minute or so, depending on the speed of your machine. And you'll get a screen very similar to this one. In fact, it should be exactly like this one, actually. The very first icon below the word file is the new icon, and you can click the arrow if you want to, or you can just go ahead. I would just go ahead and click the icon itself. And in your book, it's slightly different, again, because the software has been upgraded since the publication of the book, and that's not the publisher or the author's fault very often. If you will click the Android folder and look at the subset of it, or just the arrow more specifically, you'll see something that says Android application icon. You want to click that, and then go down to the bottom of the dialog box and click the word next to get to the next screen. There's some business you have to take care of right here. Don't worry about the little red X right now. Many students panic immediately when they see that, but just plow through it for right now. The application name, if you look on page 10 of the textbook, and just as a reminder, pause the video, rewind it as you need to individually if you are confused or just need some additional help. If you look on page 11, page 10 actually starts with opening the Eclipse project, and on page 11, it will give you what you named it. You'll name the application Hello Android World. And notice when I'm typing Hello Android World that it types this out in both the application name and the project name. Now you can use the package name as it stands right there if you want to. Corinne in her book has suggested something different, and I'll stay as consistently with her textbook as possible. If you look on page 12 of your book, it will tell you in step number 4 to use a package name called net.android, I can spell it correctly, Android Bootcamp, referring to her book, .hello Android World. And notice that in her case, we don't use any spacing for these project names. So it's net.androidbootcamp.hello Android World. All right. that's everything at this point. The build thing, basically with the build and the minimum required options, these are written on mine, but in case it's not there, you want to build so that you have the most recent version of the Android operating system for a phone, or an emulator of a phone in this case. So we'll probably have either 4.0 or 4.1. The most recent one here is 4.1, and it may be already listed on your screen as it is on mine. If not, choose the most recent one. The minimum required is going to be, the suggestion is Android 2.2, because there are a lot of versions of phones out there. Look for an API of 8 for that. And once you have this information, you'll notice the location is inside your Workspace, Android Eclipse Workspace, and it says Hello Android World, which is the name of the application and the project. So once you've got this, you can click the next button right there. And this just gives you the launcher icon, whether you want the images and the background color and all to change or not. For right now, as beginners, I will skip over this. You'll notice the little green robot maybe at the top corner of this dialog box. That's a symbol of the Android phone. Click Next and choose Blank Activity right here. I think Blank Activity, I'm not sure where it is in your book when this is set up, but we'll choose Blank Activity at this point. Click the word Next, and we're almost done. The activity name, if you want to keep it as main activity, you can. She suggested using the word main. Notice the layout name is activity main. You don't have to worry about anything where it says navigation type or hierarchical parent or title. That will take care of itself. So you'll click Next right there. And if there's something that is not installed, as apparently is my case right here, like the version 8, you can actually go in and install this software. It will do it right off the bat for you. Shouldn't be a problem. If this happens to you, don't worry about the glitch. This happened to me once before as well. In one computer, it went right through, and another one, it forgot to install it. You did this back in one of the earlier videos. Just choose the accept license, install the software. It usually is pretty fast to go with. And then you should be able to click Finish and be okay with it. And this will actually set up your initial package to start your application. So it will look something like this. You'll see Package Explorer on the left-hand side, along with something called Hello Android World. Again, depending on the speed of your computer, hopefully you don't have a very old one. This should go very well. Now, mine is still spinning around, and I'm stalling for time. If it gets very lengthy, then I will pause the video. There we go. Now, you'll see something that's called a palette on the right side. You need to read the book to become more familiar with this stuff. I don't want to take a lot of time lecturing on this video because I want the video not to be too lengthy for you to have to go through it. But you can actually look at your book and note these different parts of the activity screen. And the main thing I will tell you right now, when they talk about a palette, I think of an artist's palette. When they talk about a palette, they're looking at the different parts that can be created for a cell phone application. You've got one over here on the right, on the left rather, called Form Widgets. If you click on Text Fields, that one will open up for you. Layouts, Images and Media, I'm skipping around. You have various choices here. Now, this is the graphical layout. This is the actual picture, or appearance that would be on your actual cell phone, or your emulator in this case. The emulator being this guy right here that says Hello Android World. And then Activity Main is the Java code that is associated with it. Don't worry about knowing all these particles of this code. You'll get some basic Java coding information in some handouts in the form of small exercises online that I will do with you as part of the class. But for right now, don't worry about that. You'll be fine. Just follow the directions. If you're lost, just do the best you can with it. As I said in my opening welcome to you online, don't worry, don't panic. We'll work together and get this done. If you make an effort, you're going to be fine. If you did nothing, that's a different story. So we'll deal with it from that point. To actually do the project, and this is on page 16 of your book, you'll basically go in here to the emulator, the graphical layout, and over here on the right-hand side, there are some buttons to zoom in and zoom out. It may be a little bit easier to handle. I'm going to click zoom in so you can actually see down here about halfway down the list, past the black box with the white letters, you'll see the words Hello World. Just to get some functionality in how this package works, you're going to click on Hello World, which is indicated in your directions on step number 2, I believe it is, on page 16. You just click on that with your mouse and then just press your delete key on your keyboard. And the little green arrows indicates that it's centered in the middle of your particular emulator or cell phone simulator. Click delete and this will go away. That takes care of that part. Now there are many things, basically when you're creating an emulator for a cell phone application or smartphone application, you're basically dragging components in here. It could be text, it could be pictures, it could be media like music or a movie or something, it could be dates and time, it could be a lot of different types of information, buttons to choose or whatever. And these are done over in the left-hand side, which is called the palette. What we'll be doing in this one is looking at putting in the different, just a very simple text application, which we're going to call a text field. It will actually say text view. Excuse me, I'm sorry, a form. I'm sorry, let me get this right. It will be a, I thought I saw it right here, and I'm embarrassed for a moment. I believe it was a text field. I'll make sure about this in just a moment. Don't worry about it. You want to make sure in this area that you have the Nexus 1 3.7 chosen. It probably will be chosen for you anyway as you're getting this set up. And the next thing you want to do is to go to page 18. And on page 18, if you go to Forms and Widgets in the palette on the left-hand side, there it is. You want to go in and see the word text view, and you want to hold your mouse button down and drag a copy of this onto your emulator. Now notice the little green lines that will come up. Now if you want it centered, as soon as you'll notice maybe when I move over here, watch my video very carefully, when the line becomes very vertical and dotted, that means it will have it in the center. And by default, it will say the word text view. So I've actually dragged that form widget in there. You can always use the undo button or Control Z like you do with other computer programs in order to change this if you like. Now, if I'm going to change the words of text view, the natural thing for us to want to do is to think like we do in a word processor or in a drawing program of some kind. But in this case, what you want to do, this is the graphical layout. You want to go to Activity Main, which is your Java code that's built in for you. I hope you can see this on this video, but on the very bottom, there's bottom half of this Java code, you see text view, and it has a lot of information here about the width and the height, how it's aligned, center, top to bottom, and all that. And then you'll see Android text, the very last line right there, it says text view. What you want to do is double click inside there and change the word text view so that it says Hello World, Hello, and I'm on step number 3 on page 19 if you want to follow in the book. Hello World. I'm not good at multitasking and typing and talking at the same time. Plus, I'm not seeing this very well. My eyes are old. Sorry. Hello World, my first Android app. All right, that's now typed in. You won't have to change the quotes or any other text that's in box here. And now what the rule says, the next to the last line, which is the one preceding the phrase relative layout, is now in place. Now if I click the graphical layout to get back to my emulator, I will see Hello World, my first app. And you might say, well, where did my black box go? If I zoom out with the minus instead of the plus up here, I can look at the entire emulator right there. And that doesn't look like a lot right now, but this is what we do in getting this set up. Now, to actually run the cell phone application or the emulator to test it out and make this application go on the emulator, you will go on page 21 and choose the first step. You click the word Run, and then click in the top of that menu list the word Run again. So the Run menu and the Run choice. Now, this may take a little time depending on your computer and your computer speed. Now, it will ask you to select something. Sometimes mine will already be selected, but if not, you can choose Android application, the very first option, and that will click OK, and then click the OK button for you. We'll allow the OK button to be ungrade, so to speak. When you click OK, it will ask if you've modified this. In my case, I've reset and reinstalled many times. I'll go ahead and save changes. You probably will not get this message. And at some point, you should get the emulator to come up. And hopefully there it is. Now, it may take a minute or two for this to come up because it's a very busy program. There's a lot of CPU power being done in the background, so be very patient as you watch this load. It could take a couple of minutes. There's the Android logo, and again, be patient enough for it to show the time up at the top in this black background. At the bottom, you'll eventually see a circle with a closed padlock around it. I'm now referring to step number 3 on page 22. We're actually almost finished with this chapter, believe it or not. It's a very simple application at first, primarily because we want to get to the mechanical part of this software. So we're looking at something very simple right at first. So I may pause this also so you won't have to just prolong this and listen to me do the watch the weather, nice weather we're having kind of. And there it is right there. When I paused my screen and then made the video happen again, it went away. There it is. All right, what you want to do at this point, as it says in step 3, you want to click or hold down the lock icon, click on it, and you want to drag it over to the right so that it unlocks it. When it does that, your cell phone emulator will change. Again, won't be anything special right now. Now mine says make yourself at home, and I think what will happen, this one will actually change, I'm pretty sure. And it will eventually say, Hello World. There it is right there. Hello World, my first Android app. And you may be saying, wow, big deal. But again, we have to start with something simple so you get used to the mechanics of this. All you do now is close the window with the X like you do traditionally. Close that emulator. And don't worry about this automatically monitoring log. If you want to, that's fine. You can click OK if you want to. Don't worry right now about the errors as far as launching Logcat. I shouldn't have done that in the first place. We'll be okay with it. To save this, you would go to the File button and choose Save All, or if you want to do Save As, in this case, you can go to Save As and save the information, and you should be okay. Probably just Save All will take care of it. I probably should not have run that little Logcat, so don't worry about the errors. Hopefully this helps you get through the first application. And if you will look at the end of the chapter, I will likely be assigning the other exercises at the end of the chapter when I'll be specific about those online. But we'll give you practice with getting used to the software. So we'll start with some very simplistic stuff first. I promise you there will be some neat applications coming up later. If you have any questions, again, please let me know.